America or something.
So if I say we're live, we're not actually live because I'm not going live on YouTube because it's
Yeah, of course you can.
pain in the backside. But we're here in York at the LNER Community Stadium for a live edition of the Forty20 live Rugby League podcast, where Jonathan Doidge has already tried to nick a World Cup winners' medal, which is disgraceful. Jacob Kilbride is here from the York Press. Phil Kaplan is there. There's an empty seat there. Is that Peter Smith?
I don't know where he's gone.
Is it the bar?
If he won't be at the bar, I guarantee he will not be at the bar.
I've got this microphone on. There's no one here at the moment because it's not open. Jonathan Doidge has bought pizzas, and most importantly,
He hasn't bought.
stolen pizzas.
That's a great personal risk because I was apprehended on the way out of the press room, saying, where are you going with those?
And we have with us a World Cup winner. Look at this actual World Cup. Show it to the camera. I mean, look at that.
Spontaneous round of applause for that.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Scott Gobin, Rugby League world champion. Forget all these other people. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good. I'm gonna. This is the point of the thing about having a microphone. No one can hear me now. But what's it like playing for England and winning the World Cup? Because no one else knows what that feels like.
Unbelievable. Yeah, it's really fantastic. It's not something you expect to do, to be honest with you. But yeah, it was absolutely unbelievable. It's surreal. Can't really describe it. It was just lost in the moment when it happened. Everything just kind of zoned out and disappeared, and just disbelief. That's probably the best way to put it.
I mean, has it sunk in? There's the other stereotypical question at this point.
No, I don't think it has yet. It's still, obviously with the World Cup still going on, I don't think it will sink in till afterwards. But yeah, like I say, just a bit like normal day-to-day stuff now, back to work, and it's kind of over a bit. But yeah, it's don't think it's quite sunk in, but it's getting there.
No pressure.
People stopped and asked for your autograph yet.
A few people have after the game. All the kids stayed behind and they were like, "Can you sign this? Can you sign that? Can you sign my boot? Can I have your shirt?" I was like, "Unfortunately, I've only got one shirt, so I can't give that away. I need to keep that, unfortunately." But yeah, lots of signatures went out after the final whistle.
No one asked you to give away your socks. Because Kira Bennett yesterday after the England game, someone asked for her socks, which I'm slightly concerned about.
Yeah, no one asked for my socks, unfortunately. Just the shirt, but like I say, I couldn't give that away just yet.
In terms of the tournament as a whole, well, I guess it couldn't have gone any more better for England, having gone unbeaten throughout the whole thing.
No, it's kind of pretty much how we kind of wanted to go. We wanted to get 4 wins out of 4. We worked hard in training to get into that position, and yeah, the performance came together on the pitch, and we got the 4 wins, which is what we aimed for. So yeah, we were over the moon with that.
I'm all about the sport, but how did you get involved in this? What's your reason to play PDRL?
Simon Brown, basically. He's a local lad from Morley, where I grew up. Every time he saw me out, he'd ask me if I fancied this game at PDRL, playing against other disabled people. And I would basically just said to him, "Nah, I don't think it's for me." So I just kept shoving him away, and basically saying, "Nah, it's not for me." And then he called me this one night when I had a few to drink, and I agreed to say yes. Next thing I know, next Monday I was out training and never looked back. Yeah, it was a fantastic experience. The lads welcomed me with open arms, and yeah, probably the best set of lads I know.
Mind you, he was very disparaging about you on commentary. I don't know if you've heard
biscuits
it
input.
Yeah. And also was mentioning about your lack of speed. Couldn't understand how you'd scored the 2 long-range tries that you did in the final.
Yeah, my philosophy is if you run faster, you don't get caught, you don't get hurt. So yeah, just try and outrun the enemy basically.
See, and you've now put the pressure on the other England squads who are all in the semi-finals this weekend because you've actually got the silverware.
Yep.
They've all got to match it.
Yeah, they've got something to live up to now, haven't they? Can't be all about us now. But yeah, they've been in pretty good form of all 3 of the teams in the semi-finals. There's no reason why they can't win the respective tournament. It'd be good if we got 4 wins out of 4 for England, and it just boosts the sport as a whole.
Jacob, I'll let you hold the mic. Again, as I say, no one's here because it's on stuff.
No pressure.
No, I mean, this is your first time on the podcast, so no pressure at all.
Thank you.
How's the World Cup gone for you so far? Obviously, you haven't got a medal to show for it yet.
No.
Lanyard.
Yeah, I have it in my pocket actually. I should put it on. Yeah, no, I've loved it. There's been lots of York involvement, which is obviously nice. The England girls, the women players have been fantastic. We had Rhoda Michael, Brendan O'Hagan for Ireland, Jack Teamby for Scotland, Bailey Antrobus, we saw Pete did a piece on playing for Wales. So yeah, no, I've loved it. Managed to get a few free tickets for the England games with the Joe Bachelor connection, which was nice as well. So yeah, no, from a York perspective, it's been great. And then the games here have been really good as well. I mean, I wasn't sure about the crowds. Obviously, I know that's been a big talking point for everyone. But I think it's been over 3,000 for both games, which I think is slightly better than the York Knights attendances, which they don't release currently, which is a little bit hard to tell. So those have been really impressive, which has been a nice surprise, really, given how much talk there's been about, you know, the tickets sold and things like that so far.
Well, surely this is the only city at the moment where the women are better than the men. Well, I guess Leeds as well.
Yeah, the Valkyrie are in top tier and the Knights, you know, are in the second tier. So, yeah, they've been such a success story. You know, since Lindsay Anfield's come in, you know, they've just been so impressive. And I know they've recruited heavily. I don't think they've made, you know, there's no secret about that. But just how quickly she's been able to.
York City Tigers, is that what you're saying?
Right, yeah.
Is that why you're in those colours?
Yeah, I've got to represent. Yeah. But she's brought that group of, you know, individual players from a few different clubs together so quickly and made it into a proper team. And, you know, got ahead of St Helens and Leeds in terms of, you know, the finishing table last year. So, yeah, no, they've been a real success story and something to build on, I guess, for the future.
Doidge, before all these other people turn up, you were in the podcast once, right? You came to our Bijou studio. I'm sure you have once.
Well, you probably remember it, Richard, but yes, I did. I did come to your Bijou studio. I'm sure talk rubbish as usual for a couple of hours.
I'm sure when you're around the country watching cricket, you're in much more celebrity locations than that.
Well, some interesting ones. This year down at Taunton, for example, Yorkshire against Somerset, which was supposed to be in what could only be described as a white TARDIS. But it coincided with the hottest day of the year. In fact, I was in Taunton when in Doncaster, Lincolnshire area, it was 41 degrees. Fortunately, we managed to sit out on a trestle table like this to do the commentary. But yeah, it could have been horrendous in a TARDIS. But yeah, I've been loving the tournament so far. I was up in Newcastle for the first match, doing some corporate pre-match stuff, which was quite interesting because the Simone players I interviewed couldn't pronounce my surname, nor I theirs, which was a bit of fun to kick things off. And just been great. So I've not been able to get to every game, but it's just been fantastic to watch it again. Phil and I have laughed about the sort of trekking around we did way back in 2000, the first tournament that I was lucky enough to work on, and plenty more in between. And this is right up there, and it's fantastic to see. I think goosebump moment for me, having introduced some of the teams at Civic Receptions in Leeds, the Jamaica and Ireland match, having introduced both those sets of players to the Lord Mayor of Leeds 3 or 4 weeks ago. That was fantastic when they came out, and I just loved the way that Ash Golding ran his blood to water in that expression that we hear on Rugby League broadcasts throughout that match, throughout the tournament for Jamaica. But the biggest goosebump moment for me so far really was when the England women walked out for that first match at Headingley last week. I'd just done their civic reception at Leeds Uni the weekend before. Great bunch. And then just one other point from me on the civic reception front, did the Brazil-Canada, was it Brazil? Just Brazil and Canada? Brazil, Canada,
PNG.
and PNG women when they came as well into town, which was just a brilliant night. And I think Brazil women have been the total feature of the tournament for me. Last night, for example, at Headingley, having lost the match in such agonising circumstances, penultimate minute of the match, and then to see them while everybody had dispersed, including yourselves, back to get a cup of coffee in the press room.
Ask questions, press conference, come on.
Doing a kind of caterpillar roll over each other in front of the few that were there at the time. I thought that was fantastic. The dancing that they put in at the Civic Hall. So loads of great points so far, and we're now just getting to the business end of the tournament and loads more to look forward to in the next week or so.
To throw back to our podcast in Ashton, when Gary Wilson was on the panel, he said a lot of people would be interested in the Brazilian women, and I'm sure those people he mentioned
I think he did say that.
would have been interested in the Brazilian women rolling around on the floor. I mean, but we were there for their rugby. They were good.
They were good. I mean, definite improvement across the 3 matches for them. And PNG women, fantastic in terms of their approach to the thing. When we've heard a bit more about what life is like for them back home, when Elsie Albert turned up in a press conference last week and again last night, and Martha Maloia. Oh, apologies, Martha, if I didn't quite get the pronunciation of the surname.
She's a big listener, we're big in PNG.
But that was 2 sensational tries she scored last week. She was there right on the spot at the right moment to get that first try against England last night. If you're thinking about players who we're going to stick in the memory over the longer term, then she'd be one of those for me.
And she'd never been in a press conference before. I mean, what an experience. Come halfway around the world to the cold of November in England and have to sit in front of all us asking inane questions.
Yeah, well, yeah. When I asked her my inane question about, scoring those couple of tries last week, she was just so almost timid, but certainly humble about what she'd just achieved, because it took a lot of skill to score those 2 tries. And she was more or less just saying, look, that happened, but I'm just pleased to be here.
Now, a man who doesn't ask inane questions is Peter Smith, obviously, of the York Evening Post. Highlight of the tournament so far?
I'm going to rain on everybody's parade now. all this positivity.
We bought the antidote with us.
There's always one. I think it's been good. I don't think it's been great. It's been better than the disaster of 2000. It's not been as good as 2013, and it's not been as good as 1995, in my opinion. Some aspects have been, but overall, I think it's been a little bit of a step down from those 2, which is disappointing. Highlight of the tournament so far, I've really enjoyed the women's games. Everybody's already talked about Brazil against Canada. It was just fantastic, absolutely fantastic. It was such a shame in a way that it ended with a positive result, because I think everyone wanted it to be a draw, and both teams would have got something out of the tournament. But the try that won was just incredible. I don't think, if you've not seen that on TV or on a stream, just try and catch that. You will not see a try like that again. 99 times out of 100 it would work. A chip and a chase and another kick, and the ball stood up in goal and they touched down. It was fantastic. I enjoyed that. Obviously the wheelchair has been a massive highlight. I think that's got huge potential for Rugby League as a whole. I think it could go. It's a sport that could go global. I think it's not a sport that's confined to the north of England, which is the perception of the running version of Rugby League. It's easy to understand. It looks fantastic on television. The hits, the skills, everything about it just screams TV to me, and I think that's been a real highlight, and let's hope England can win that. As for the men, I think that's been a little bit disappointing. Mainly in terms of the crowds, really. It's probably not the crowds actually that have been so much as a problem as the number of empty seats at venues. I think the venues have been too big for the numbers of people that have turned up. Phil's pulling faces at me, so I think we're going to hear the alternative to this in a little while. I think they've got the ticket prices wrong to a large extent. That's certainly what people are saying to me, and that's my perception. I think the tickets have been too expensive. The semi-finals coming up, ridiculously expensive. To watch Australia against New Zealand out on the road, I think the pricing they've got that wrong. Venues like Middlesbrough, an 8,000 attendance in Middlesbrough, and I think it was 10,000, was it, at Coventry? I think that's 12,000 at Coventry. For non-Rugby League areas, that's excellent, but because the stadiums were so big, they looked a quarter or half full. I went to the Middlesbrough and enjoyed it. I thought it was good to see local people there, and it was a good attendance, but the stadium was a quarter full. At one point I turned to the person next to me and I said, "Oi!"
Who scored?
So that's been the disappointment. As I say, there've been a lot of good things about it. I don't think it's been perfect. I think some of the organisation hasn't been as good as I would have hoped. Overall, enjoyable enough though, and I think if England go on and win the men's tournament in just over a week's time, then people will look back on it very fondly. But so far, as I say, I don't think it's been as good as the last couple of tournaments. Sorry, 2 of the last 3 tournaments in this country. It was better than 2000.
It's a bit like Euro 96, which is mythologised as this great football tournament. There were swathes of empty seats for many of the games across the country. Like because England did well, everyone thinks it was a great tournament. What apart from ticket prices, is there anything else you would necessarily change about what's Scott?
I think, well, obviously there'll need to be a debrief. I think we'll probably need to look at it after the whole thing's been completed. There's been criticism of some of the lopsided scorelines, but I actually don't find that too much of a problem. I think you get that in most tournaments. People are saying, well, 16 teams is too many, but I think they've got that about right. And some of the highlights have been the introduction of new teams. We've mentioned obviously Brazil in the women's, but in the men's, Greece were fantastic. Just the way they played the game, the spirit and enthusiasm they showed was great. And Jamaica, their try against New Zealand, which is so telling, not live, that was certainly one of the moments of the tournament. It was terrific to see. They had, both nations had domestic players playing at the elite level, and that can only be a step forward. So I don't think that's too much of a concern. I think actually the new nations have done better probably in this tournament than they have in previous tournaments. What will concern me about that is whether they're going to get the support to be there in 3 years' time in France. And this is Rugby League. You know, you'd fear that we'll just cast them adrift now for 3 years and expect them to come back and be better in France in 2025, and that won't happen. We need to support. If we're serious about Greece and Jamaica playing Rugby League, we need to support them now, not just when the World Cup comes in.
Phil, what are you going to do week on Sunday? Is that when it finishes?
Sleep. That'll be the first thing. I think you can sum up the tournament in 2 words. There probably won't be 2 words that surprise you, but they're Edda Santini.
I was going to carry Tina Matura.
But the way she has approached the game and the enthusiasm and excitement that she's embodied, and then the length of the field interception try that she scored last night, where I thought her coach was slightly disparaging to say she had little legs. I've a big sympathy with anybody who's got little legs, to be honest. I think the great thing about what we've been talking about on the road shows, what we've been writing about and discussing amongst ourselves, has been, it's almost been a case of getting our love for the sport back through nations like Jamaica and Lebanon and Brazil. Why did we get imbued by the sport in the first place? They've got that freshness. They've not been tainted by anything over the years. We're hard-bitten cynics who've seen it all and can compare it with previous World Cups and performances by fledgling nations and what attendances should or shouldn't be, but they don't care. They're just here to enjoy themselves and be part of something. Greece was the same, the American wheelchair were exactly the same. And even today, they've lost heavily to France, which is always going to be on the cards, but they scored a try, and it's not being patronising to say what it meant to them. It was set up by a 16-year-old kid who was playing his first game. He'd come on as a substitute because they wanted to give everybody a chance in the squad to play, and he was the guy that made the overhead pass, and everybody mobbed him. The whole of the stadium in Sheffield went up because they wanted a reward for these Americans who were putting everything in but clearly aren't at a level that the French are at. And I think if it's taught us anything, it's that's what we should revel in. Yes, let's have a debrief at the end of it about what could have been done better, and clearly merchandising, I think, is the other issue. We should be able, when we go to every game, to buy some shirt of a team we've just fallen in love with. So, when Edda scored her try, I wanted number 22 Brazil on a shirt as I left the ground, but you can't get it. And again, I think we need to look at all things like that. But just in terms of the freshness that it's brought to the sport compared to loop fixtures in Super League, where you look at it and go, not again. It's been fantastic.
Pass the mic back to Scott, because it's all right, Scott, you've got your winner's medal there, you're world champion, I think, but we don't care about that now, because Wheelchair Rugby League's been on the telly and everyone's fallen in love with this now, so you're on the sidelines, so we've been watching it a bit.
Yeah, I've been trying to watch as much as I can, to be fair. Saw the England game last night. The game before that was that Brazil, watched that one. I've been trying to watch as much as I can, wheelchair, women's and men's.
What have you enjoyed most about that? Apart from winning, obviously. That's kind of.
Facing the hacker must have been good.
There's several highlights in the tournament for me through the PDRL. Facing the hacker was unbelievable. you sit there watching it from the stands and it gives you shivers and goosebumps then, but when you stood in front of it, actually, wow, you just zone out, you're in your own little world, and you're just watching these people do that in front of you. Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, it's just fantastic.
I mean, what are you thinking at that moment? Because obviously, you know, as you say, you see it on the telly. We've all seen it on the telly. We've all seen it live in the stadium. But when you're actually there on the pitch and they're there across it, they're doing their thing. What are you thinking?
These mean business. They're coming for you. Yeah, pretty much that. You know they're up for it and they're ready. They're staring you down. They're looking you dead in the eyes. They're not blinking. They're making sure you know they're there. And yeah, it gets you out of race and ready for the game.
Don't you think it's a bit unfair though that you don't get a chance to do something back? Go Morris dancing or something.
Waving a handkerchief at the opposition.
Yeah, so we need a white flag. That's what we needed.
Maypole comes on the halfway line.
Yeah, no, we needed a white flag. That's what we needed when we were facing off against it. No, we just stood there. I don't know if you saw our first game against them. We stood there and we were given the respect that they needed, and I think they appreciated it because they gave us another hacker when we walked away. I think it's just the mutual respect we had between each other was fantastic. And yeah, facing off against it is just something I'll live with forever now.
This is the first time PDRL's been part of the World Cup, and obviously it can only get bigger from here. Where do you see it going in the future?
Well, everyone wants it to be on the elite level that the men's, women's and wheelchair is, so that's the aim overall. I heard there's talks in Fiji and PNG hopefully getting sides set up, and then hopefully with the World Cup in France maybe they will try and get sides set up, which is stepping stones in the right direction. It's growing, it's expanding. I know domestically more people have been inquiring how to get involved, so it's already growing locally as well, which again is fantastic. But yeah, the aim is it gets as big as the men's and keeps going from there really.
I guess it's whereas the men's game, whatever, has so much history in terms of people wanting to play the game. You're starting from scratch, but you're also starting from a player pool which is much smaller because you have to have a disability to play.
Yeah, makes it a bit harder, doesn't it, when you've only got a small fraction of people who are eligible to play, and then when you go through the classifications, even less people qualify. So yeah, it's going to be a challenge to get people participating, but we've just got to encourage as many people who are physically disabled to get involved at club level first, and then we'll take it from there and hopefully see where it goes. There might be rule changes going forwards to make more people eligible, but yeah, it's just stepping stones at the moment, the foundation level, and hopefully it just grows.
It's one of these ridiculous things where, I mean, me and Phil commentated on the game ages ago now, it seems, where at first you're seeing, they've got one arm, they've got half a leg missing, but then you just forget about that because it's just rugby league, you're just playing rugby league.
Yeah, definitely. When I first started playing, I didn't really know what to expect, so I thought it might just be sort of like a charity token sport, bit of touch and pass, a couple of tackles and run ball in once or twice, but no, it's a full-blooded competition. Everyone's out to hurt you, and you come off next day and you're aching and you're thinking, God, why did I do that?
But I guess if it was, if it was touch and pass, it wouldn't have the same quality and impact about it.
No, definitely not. Well, there's already tag rugby out there, isn't there? So if people wanted to play that, they'd play that. The PDRL is pretty much just normal rugby league. The hits are real, the running's real, the passing, the skill level's pretty decent. It's just, what more would you want, really?
Jacob, we're in York, the home of the Knights and the Valkyries, which everyone needs to remember how to call them. But you've had an exciting rebrand, which has not quite happened elsewhere. I mean, I'm saying you as if you run the club. Well, important. How have you seen the club grow in your time as a reporter for the...
Yeah, so I started in 2019, and then obviously John Flatman came in at the start of 2021. I think it's just become a little bit more professional off the field. I think there's sort of more outside investment from Clint. The backroom staff has gone up. I think it's trebled really. And every time I come to a game now, there's another person in a York City Knights jacket that I need to shake hands with and get to know and that sort of thing. I think from going to the fans forum recently, he's just got such a vision really, and I think a lot of it is linked to the IMG stuff. Developing on the field, and that does. I think a lot of that does play into York hands. They've got the facility here. York St John's is a fantastic, training facility. I know not everyone is quite happy about the Summer Bash announcement, but but there you are.
I mean, I prefer it was in Blackpool. I probably won't come, but that's not because that's no disrespect to York, because this is a great facility. It's a great location for people to come to. I went to Leeds actually, I wasn't that bothered by it, so I just think, I'm not going to bother going anymore. But it's a great location. It's a great facility, and I mean, obviously I'm jealous because we've got nothing like this in Wakefield or Castle, but it's a great platform for the sport to go, and I guess that's part of these IMG proposals that a club like York is in a perfect position to grow with them.
Yeah, you'd like to think so. I think, obviously, you still want the on-field competition. I think, Andrew Henderson was part of the fans forum as well, and he was very insistent that that's going to be the case. And there's no taking the foot off the gas now that it looks like York are going to be, they're going to receive an advantage from the IMG proposals. But I think bringing minimum standards into the competition is, it's got to be the way forward really, and hopefully from a self-assured perspective that helps the Knights and obviously Valkyrie as well, having this facility, York St John's, and sort of growing all aspects of the club really, rather than just putting 99% of your money into buying an Australian player or improving your playing squad. It's got to be about progressing the entire club and moving it all forward really.
Were you surprised James Ford left?
Yeah. I mean, I think it was on a Friday that I was speaking to him on a Zoom call, and it was like a typical sort of end of season roundup. And then just before he ended the Zoom call, he said, "Just to let you know that I'm resigning," and it's been announced on Monday. So
that was a bit pointless call to be on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I thankfully stayed on for another 10 minutes and we spoke about his legacy at York and this, that, and the other. But I think from not to speak for him, but I think he was explaining that it was time for him to move on, take a role in Super League, experience a full-time club and atmosphere, and I guess just sort of move on in his journey as a coach. He was pretty insistent that there hadn't been a falling out with the club or anything like that, and he was very well wishing. But yeah, it was a massive shock, and yeah, Wakefield are now my Super League team, I guess.
We'll just
I
in front of it.
don't know if that's a jinx or a curse, but there you go.
We're cursed already.
But yeah, true.
Doesn't matter what happens. But Andrew Henderson comes in. I think you must be looking forward to asking him one question, then never answering him.
Yeah,
Filing for a year.
He's a bit of a journalist dream, really. I mean, we did a press call with him for about half an hour a few weeks ago, and must have asked 5 or 6 questions. So yeah, he's a journalist dream. But I think his record looks really strong. He's worked with Keighley, just had a really successful season where he's head of rugby, assistant coach at Warrington, which had a pretty successful spell, I gather. Head coach at London. So he's worked at all levels of the game, in various different roles. Speaks really well. I think the slight issue for him is that he's now got James Ford's squad, and Keighley have got Andrew Henderson's squad. So there's not quite the room, I don't think, to bring in his own players and recruit who maybe he wants. But there's still a pretty good core squad there at York. Although, from what I can gather, the other Championship teams are recruiting really strongly. Sheffield, Widnes, I think they'll both be stronger next year. Keighley just going up, I think they'll definitely be in the mix. So yeah, I don't think it'll be easy, but I think the Championship's really intriguing next year. Yeah, it should be interesting competition.
And all the clubs can moan that they have to, York get an extra home game.
Yeah,
That's great. It's great.
exactly.
It's perfect.
There you go.
I mean, Doidge, when you covered York, they were rubbish, weren't they? Well, this was a different York. This is not this club. And now I know
They weren't even as good as rubbish.
I know it's 150 years of York, but there's a difference between 150 years of rugby league in York and, well, it's not even 150 years of rugby league, but you know what I mean. And York City Knights, whenever they were from.
Do we really need to revisit that? By the way, I love the Noel Cleal look. I think you should make more of this in introducing, your Forty20 podcast, and also Phil was some designer of footwear as well, the like of which we've never seen, which he might show on camera. In the 25 years that I've known him. But anyway,
must have been a birthday present.
Back to the Wasps, as they were back in those days. Yeah, we had a couple. Was it 2.5 seasons or something like that of sheer joy?
I forgot they were Wasps for a while. Yeah, I forgot.
The length and breadth of the country. We were just reminiscing about a wonderful Boxing Day Northern Ford Premiership fixture, which we commentated on together for BBC Radio York, where it finished Hull KR 2, York 0, in a howling gale coming off the docks over there at Craven Park. It was just horrendous to try and even get through the match at the level we were at, higher above the ground. So what it was like down at pitch level, no idea. It was probably the worst commentary that's ever been put out on the BBC. But we got paid for it. But we trekked around for a couple of seasons. I remember going to Barrow in the fog one Sunday, which took us forever to get there. And of course, you got the luxury of knowing that the coach was changing, and acknowledge that, Jacob. I mean, in our day, Lee Crooks was doing the job for quite a while, and he was great to deal with as Crooksy, wasn't he? For the time he was doing it, and he would always automatically just come up from his bench to the commentary point at the end of the match without being asked and do a piece with it, which was fantastic. Unfortunately, there was a day York had beaten Chorley at the Huntington Stadium, which was somewhere, possibly even where we're sitting now, and they'd beaten them 70-odd-0 or something like that. Chorley were terrible, and York at this point of the season were going pretty well. But then the money ran out, and by the time that they go over to Chorley for the return fixture at Victory Park,
which is a great name for a team that were rubbish.
Yeah, hardly any of the team that had been playing in the first fixture were available, and they were playing people from the army and the services and people who were looking about as out of condition as you and I in the York side, and they got beaten about the same score as they'd beaten Chorley here. So, and Lee, as I said, fantastic, wasn't it? But probably still the saddest sight I've seen. This guy who was a very high-class player on the field, great reputation, and he was leaning on your typical metal bar that runs around the side of what is a football pitch at Victory Park, Chorley, and he was just leaning there with his head bowed, and I walked around and said, "Can we do a piece, Lee?" And he just said, "Please, not this time, Jonathan, let's just leave it there." And I just respected that, and we went without a post-match interview. Yeah, it was sad those last few weeks, and then we didn't know it was finishing, and we finished whichever match was what turned out to be the last game, thinking we're going to wherever next week, and no. I do remember also Marlon Billy scoring 5 tries at Rochdale in a match that Rochdale beat York something like 90-0 or 92 or something. Yeah, so it wasn't the glory days for York. I'm pleased to see what's happened since, and been fortunate enough to come and commentate on a game for our league myself last year with Kyle Amo when the Rhinos women were playing against the York women. So so much better, so much more upbeat.
Oh, you got to see the fight then. You got to see the fight.
But there was there was a 25-minute stoppage. You've got to fill a bit doing our sort of
not
job.
if you're with Carl, you don't.
But 25 minutes because of an injury, and we had to keep going. It was the longest gap I've ever known in a rugby league game. Yeah, it was.
But there is a World Cup link, isn't there? Because taking over from Mr. Crooks was Leo Pifania, who turns up again as the coach of Italy.
It was great, wasn't it? I mean,
he was brilliant.
We didn't see him enough, did we? He was only there for the latter part of that spell with York Wasps. But it was fantastic. I remember it. I've still got the card. He gave me a card when he left and said, "Here's my number. If you're ever in Sydney, give us a shout and we'll go out for a beer." And I've never been to Sydney in 20 years.
Now, the great logistics about this programme is we've got 2 York Knights players. It's like people saying Wakefield Trinity Wildcats, everyone gets upset, who are going to be on the podcast. They're over there, right at the other end of this exciting suite, and we're over here. But I think they're having a drink. Coke, though, it's not. When do you start? So has pre-season started yet at York?
It's a good question. I'm not too sure, actually. Not too sure. I'll ask them.
Because we're going to ask them about playing in the World Cup, because it's Brendan O'Hagan of Ireland, who of course went out, and Bailey Antrobus of Wales.
Some good solo stats, though.
That's
yeah, exactly.
It's like last night's England game. We should talk about the matches we saw yesterday. We've spoken briefly about Canada and Brazil, which was, I mean, Phil, you love this kind of thing, don't you? Because these are 2 wildly exotic places meeting at your beloved Headingley ground.
2 continents playing each other.
And it sounds like they might play each other again soon.
Well, I think that was the thing that came out of it. Yes, it was a close game, and we loved that for what it was. The women's equivalent of Tonga and Samoa. But also played in a tremendous spirit. But more than that, as the questions were asked afterwards, where do you go from here? That they both will be in the next Women's World Cup, because I think the 8 nations are guaranteed. They're hoping to expand it to 16. But what would you do in the 3 years? How will you keep these players that we've just come to know and love, dear old Edna, engaged for the next 3 years? And they said, you know, one of the things that's come out of it is as soon as the match finished, the two coaches shook hands and said, we need to play each other. You know, and on the back of that, USA women have now played their first test match against Canada, so can they get up and running? And Jamaica want a women's team to go along. So, and all of a sudden now, through having this World Cup, we've probably got a momentum to have an America's Championship. You know, on the back of that, I think the men's South American Championship kicks off at the end of this month. It's the first tournament after the World Cup. You're going to have Colombia playing in that, you're going to have Argentina playing in that. And again, we get obsessed with what the standard's going to be like. It actually doesn't matter. The fact that these nations are playing and that these women will get the opportunity to travel and play rugby league when they do, I just think it's absolutely fantastic. And you know, Maria Graf, who's probably our second favourite Brazilian player, mainly because she's the only one that speaks English and has been absolutely brilliant in the press conferences. You know, she's already talking about keeping this group of women together because they want to maintain this experience that they've had. So yeah, no, games like that have been fantastic. I think England was superb. The first 15 minutes against PNG, we thought this is the kind of test that they need and how are they going to respond to it. PNG, as we knew, would be incredibly physical, and it looked for that opening quarter that you know, England would struggle to find parity with them. But the fact that they did and then went on and blew them away in the second half, I thought you know, that's a real good indicator that England might actually have a chance of getting to the final.
When I said they were drinking Coke, there's a bit of a head on that.
Must be a busy one.
Irish international.
Well, speaking of Ireland, because I've got the Canadian squad up in front of me because they sent us all these exciting things, which was great because I went into the mix zone after the game yesterday and I said to the Canadian media manager, send anyone else. And then when they sent, oh, here's such and such, just scroll down, oh, so you're a marine biology centre, but Danny Frenada, who's their fullback and goal kicker, currently plays rugby union in Ireland. She lives in Ireland. So surely it must be within the realms of possibility that a Super League club, if they can find some money, because of course it's not cheap, fly in from Ireland for a couple of
Well, I think one of the other things that the American wheelchair team was saying, because again they're tasked with not only setting up a domestic competition when they get back, but they actually are looking to actively develop the game in Canada and Mexico, so either side of them. So that again, by the time the next World Cup comes around, there may be other nations that will qualify. They were saying that they want the Irish wheelchair team to come over on St Patrick's Day. Now again, that's something we used to do in the men's running game until we realised that, you know, the Ireland team for World Cups is different to the Ireland team that's made up of domestic-based players. But if you could get that, you know, Guinness to sponsor a game like that, and it's wheelchair and it's in New York on St Patrick's Day, maybe that is the way to break the sport in nations that don't currently play it.
As England are on the telly behind us, Pete, what did you make of that performance? I mean, it's all right because we were talking about the World Cup as a whole earlier. You said you weren't wholly positive about it, and we have a reputation of not being wholly positive about the way perhaps England have prepared for this tournament and have selected their squad for this tournament. But it's very easy after this game to then say, well, it's completely wrong because they won 42-4. But what did you make of England's performance yesterday?
England women, I thought
Yes.
they were good. I thought it was just what we needed. They were putting a little bit of pressure early on. Went 4-0 behind and looked like they might have the hands full. Papua New Guinea were really tearing into them defensively, and it was a good test, and England withstood it. They were patient, they played some good rugby, they fought their way back into the game. They weren't constantly. I thought it was a very good performance. I think they've got some good individuals in the team. Frank Goldcorp's a really exciting talent. I'm a big fan of Georgia Roach. I don't think she's hit her best form. We were talking about this during the game yesterday. I don't think she's hit her best form yet in this tournament, but she was out for a couple of months with a broken leg just before it. She didn't play any warm-up games. I think Courtney Winfield-Hill's been excellent. I don't quite know why she wasn't player of the match last night. She would have been if there'd been a vote in the press box, I think. I thought Leah Burt was excellent the way she took her tries. We know all about Jodie Cunningham and Amy Hardcastle, people like that. I think it's a good, talented squad and they're making really good progress. It was important that they beat Papua New Guinea because that's likely to mean, and we were talking obviously before, Australia play New Zealand in the decider for the top spot in Group B, but they're likely to play New Zealand in the semi-final, and I think that's probably a winnable game. I don't think anybody's going to beat Australia in this tournament. they play a completely different version of the sport to all the other women's teams. They're streets ahead. So it was important that England finished top. They'll be hoping that New Zealand lose to Australia today, which I think everybody expects will happen. And they'll fancy the chances in the semi-final. I think they'll need to make fewer mistakes, I think. They've missed 1 or 2 chances, but they've scored a lot of points. They've only conceded 4 points in each of the 3 games they've played. I don't think it could have gone a lot better, really. And I think the same applies to the men. Covered a lot of England or Great Britain men's tournaments, whether that's World Cups or Chess Series or Four Nations or what have you. And I've never seen one that's gone as smoothly as this. There's just been no hiccups, no bumps in the road. Nobody's been in trouble off the field as far as we know. Nobody's fallen out with the coach. They haven't had major injuries. There's been no disastrous results. There's been no fallings out between the camp and the media. Everything has gone incredibly smoothly. I've never seen that before with an England tournament. I'm just worried that it's all going to go horribly wrong at some stage, and it would just be so England to lose in the semi-final to Samoa, having beaten them 60 points to 6 a month earlier. But I think England have got a real chance. England men have got a real chance in this tournament. Obviously Australia will be favourites, but if England can get to the final, I think it'll be a terrific build-up for a week in this country. It'll attract a lot of interest from people who don't normally watch the sport, and I think they'll go into the final as underdogs. I would imagine if they play Australia, but if they get everything right on the day, I think it's a game they could win.
In my mind, I've got Castleford 2017 as well.
Well, that's interesting because obviously in 2017, Castleford were hammered Leeds earlier on in the season, didn't they? By 60 or 12 or something, and then Leeds won the grand final. So that might be known, but let's hope not.
Did Matt Parrish come out after the England game, the first game of the tournament, and say we're going to win the World Cup? I was going to tell my media manager we're going to win the World Cup. He said not to say it.
Matt Parrish hasn't said anything to the media, has he? That's part of the problem. Samoa have done well. You have to say after that first game when they were terrible, they've really improved. They obviously were underprepared for that first game, but now they look like the side that everyone was talking about before that first game. I'm not been impressed with some of the things that Matt Parrish has done. I think probably most of us around this table know Willie Poaching quite well, and the way he was treated wasn't good. I think in a World Cup, the last thing you want is a nation, particularly a nation that's just got to the semi-finals, banning media activity. That's just ridiculous. It's not something that we can afford to do in this country. So I hope England beat them.
It's 10 past 4. Are you wanting to go and get set up? Because I know you're a big. You're not bothered.
As long as I get to watch the Hackers, I'm fine.
As long as I get to eat my pizza.
I don't know if the press box is going to be busy or not. I don't know what people are doing, but I know we're supposed to finish at 10 past 4, but we haven't even got our guests on yet. I'm trying to get their attention.
Well, we can.
We'll just
We
talk.
can play musical chairs.
Yeah, we just talk forever. I mean, this is... Come on. We'll keep it's weird. Bring your drink if you want. Don't bring your drink. Yeah, bring it. Come over. This is not live, so I don't even know why I'm looking at the camera. I could edit this out afterwards, but there's no point. You can take a picture. No, you can do whatever you want. I mean, it's
how are you? You alright?
Good to see you.
Nice to do that. You alright, mate?
Very good to see you.
Nice to meet you, mate. Scott, nice to meet you.
So now we've got 3 people who played in the World Cup, but only one of them's got a winner's medal. So not to put a down on things. I mean, Brendan, I spoke to you before the tournament started in Leeds at Hunslet at the preparations for Ireland's camp. Obviously got off to a great start against Jamaica. Didn't quite end as well, but what was your time like in the Irish camp?
Yeah, it was unreal. I've never seen a bunch of blokes merge together like we did in the camp. I look back on that 4 weeks, and it was hands down the best 4 weeks of my life. It was just so fun. The blokes that I met were just unreal, and I think just the whole journey of it. I think it can be once in a lifetime opportunity, that, and you never know if you're going to get it again. So I kind of just embraced it all, and yeah, I just absolutely loved it. And playing for Ireland and playing for both sides of my family, it just meant the world to me. Singing the national anthem was quite emotional, and yeah, just looking back on it and having a bit of time to reflect on it, yeah, I'm just so grateful and so humbled to be able to pull on that jersey.
But no one thinks that.
Hang on. Did you drink Guinness before 4 weeks ago, or is this the legacy of the tournament?
No, ever since I've moved over, I'm quite fond of a Guinness. So, but no, there were
That's probably why you got selected in the first place.
There were definitely a few Guinnesses getting thrown back. We've been told about different ways of how we drink Guinness. So all the boys have come out of the camp and you drink Guinness in 4 big gulps. So and trust me, it does taste a lot better. But you just got to be careful because you can be 30 minutes in and already had 4 pints and you're going to be staggering around the joint. So it was unreal. All the boys were good fun, and yeah, we had a few beers together at the start of the camp and stuff. And yeah, just the way the boys just gelled together, it was just it was something else. And I don't think there would be one person that would look at that camp and go, I didn't have fun. And I learnt so much. Obviously, I had Luke here, Richie Myler, Joe Keys was in there as well, and just learnt so much off them as well. And just kind of embracing that, and you're just on such a buzz the whole time. Like, it's just kind of, you're in camp with all the boys, you're living in each other's pockets, we're playing poker, we're talking crap. Some of the boys had a guitar in there, and yeah, just, mate, it was just unreal. It's hard, it's kind of hard to talk about and try and give you the emotion because it's just something else. It's something I've never felt before.
The anthem, Ronan against New Zealand. I mean, Scott, how did you go singing the anthem? Were you belting out in full? Were you kind of mumbling? These are the questions we need to know.
No, full voice. That's right. Loud and proud. That's what we said. So all our lads were singing as loud as they could. Not sure they all got the words right, to be honest with you.
Well, I mean, it has changed, Richard, so that's okay.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
On the Ronan Michael scale there, where 2 is, you know, 'cause you can't go 1 to 10. 2 is, you know, very low end. 9 is as good as it gets. Where would you put yourself?
I'd like to say we're 8, 9.
8?
Yeah, it will be. Especially that first time. That's unbelievable. The first time you sing the anthem.
And on the Ronan scale, where would you put yourself? Because that was a great moment of the tournament. And we saw the young Irish lad in the wheelchair team yesterday. His name I've forgotten, unfortunately, but Oran, that was it. Again, high up there on the Ronan Michael scale.
Yeah, I mean, it was a funny one for me. I mean, I could see my parents in the crowd, and I could see how much it meant for them. And I was singing it loud and proud. I think the first time was the most emotional for me, and then the last one, James McDonald, we were sitting next to each other on all our journeys. Would sit together, and he said to me, "I'm going to sing this national anthem as loud as I can." He goes, I never know if I'm going to sing this national anthem ever again." I kind of thought, wow, like that's so true. Like, so I that last one, I kind of belted it out as well, but I think it was going to be quite hard to get anywhere near Ronan Michael because I don't know how his mouth opens that wide. I was kind of the way the little ball boy looked up at him, you could just see it almost blew him over. But yeah, he's Ronan's a very passionate Irish man, and obviously he's been brought up over in Balbriggan in just north of Dublin there. So yeah, I mean he brought the Irish vibes in. We told him that he could only play Irish music in camp as well. So whenever that boombox was around, he was playing Irish tunes. So all the boys are still in the group chat today talking about all the Irish music, saying, "Oh, I can't get Step It Up Mary out of my head," and that. And one of the boys is overseas singing it over there. So yeah, mate, everyone's just had an absolute ball, and the passion that's come out of it as well. And that's what Jed said to us. He wants us to be as proud as he is. And I think all of us have come out of the camp exactly like that.
Now, you had it easy because Ireland's call, the Irish rugby anthem, is all in English. Bailey, I'm throwing you under the bus here, but how did that go?
Yeah, it was a bit tough learning the anthem at the start. I struggled a couple of times, but it was good in camp. They gave like posters around the wall for the boys to learn with QR codes, and just common there, just all there. So it was tough to learn at the start, but I just tried my best. But like Brendan said, you look up there, see your family when the anthem's playing, it just brings your emotional side to you that your parents don't normally see, especially not seeing it for 6 months over here, and just know that you represent the family, do yourself proud. That was one of the best moments, not just my old man and everyone like that. You go past generations, all the sacrifices they had to make, and just even my family, all the sacrifices they made back home, just like giving up work and just long distances, it's just all for them. But on a scale of 1 to 10, the anthem is a 10, they're hard to learn.
I mean, at least you gave it a try. I mean, that's the main thing. You had a go, and no one can knock you for giving it a go.
Should we get a demonstration?
Don't worry, I've already copped a lot of slack for it. A lot of Jack Tandy was slagging me off for it, and Ollie Butterworth, he was giving it to me. But yeah, it was a good experience though, good experience learning and just learning different cultures. We put a big emphasis on like learning culture in the camp. That was one thing, because some of us weren't all born in Wales, and some of us were born even in Australia. We don't have that connection. It was good to stay in touch with the heritage and the culture, and it was good.
3 ridiculously tough fixtures in that group for Wales as well, and John Keir told us before the tournament what we would expect from Wales is that you would give everything, and you certainly gave that, and probably more if that's possible.
Yeah, we come in there, we knew we had the pool of death, but we didn't let that put us on the back foot. We just said, whatever we do, we're going to put our best foot forward no matter what. No one's going to back down. We're not going to let names scare us, because you look at some of the names, especially in that Tongan squad, absolute class team, let alone just one, the whole teamwork, and even Cook Islands and stuff like that. We really went for that first game, we put our emphasis in there, but unfortunately we just got done, and it came down to the final hurdle where we could have won, but no one left the field saying that we should have done better, because that was our biggest emphasis. No regrets, we were all proud. Even the Tongan game, we only lost by 36, and yes, they beat us, but we were happy the way we played. We left nothing out there. It was just all professional. Everyone was happy just around each other. And PNG, we put all into it. We got done over there a couple of years before that in the hot weather, so we were happy to get one back in the wet weather. But yeah, it was good. It was a good, tough experience, but we had a great time.
Is this the only time you prefer the weather like this?
Yeah, playing against them, yeah, definitely. makes it a lot easier. Ask to move the ball around, so they get stuck in the mud a bit because they're not used to it. But I'm already starting to get used to it, to be honest. But Brendan will be able to back me up. It's a lot different compared to back home with the weather here.
York, what are you looking forward to in 2023?
Just putting our best foot forward again, because we got so close last year. We had a couple times where we lost ourselves and we were looking at each other, what's going on. But we came really strong together. We set a good platform last year that we're moving forward to. 40 and all the rest of the boys put a great standards in there. But unfortunately, he's gone to Wakey, which is good for him. But we've got everyone new coming through. We've got some new boys, new coaching staff, and I definitely think we'll put our best foot forward and really compete for that Super League spot next year. Brendan will be able to back me up that. We've just been really cohesion together. Everyone's talking together. Everyone's putting a big emphasis on we're not stepping down this year. We're really going for it. And at the end of the day, we'll put our best foot forward, and hopefully the York fans will go along with us, and we'll do everything we can for them.
We look at Super League, and there's how many teams would we say competing at the top of Super League? St Helens, and that's it. The Championship is a ridiculously tough competition, right? I mean, how tough is it going to be next year?
Yeah, definitely. I think last year showed as well. I mean, obviously Lee last year were a class above everyone, but when you kind of pulled that back, I think there were a few teams that were pushing really hard. And I think once again, next year's with all is it AMG or IMG that's come in, I think that everyone sees the future ahead of the game over here. So I think a lot of teams want to be pushing for Super League. So I think some of the signings that have been thrown around in the Championship this year are unbelievable as well, and it gets us players quite excited. As a professional player, you want to be playing against the best. Like you don't want to be beating teams by 40 and 50, and I don't think it's going to be like that. So I'm really excited just to get into the season. Obviously, we've got a break coming up. Obviously, we've been flat out since the start of the year, so we get a bit of a break, get to freshen up and go home. But as soon as we get back, I'm just looking forward to playing some more footy. I mean, it's crazy seeing we just come off a year of it, but next year's looking really good for us. I think with everything that's going on, it's obviously a different one. With I got along with 40 really well, and it was sad to see him go, but it's a cutthroat industry as well. I mean, it's a business at the end of the day, and 40's he's gone to a Super League club, and I wish him all the best, and I think he's going to excel there. I think he's going to be a great head coach in the Super League, and he's going to stay there for a long time. And for us, I mean, Hendo knows his footy inside and out, and I think he's going to be a great addition for us, and I'm looking forward to working with him. I mean, I know he's going to bring my game to another level as well, and just to see what he does with the club as well, and with Clint here, there's been a lot of change. There's been a lot of change for the coaching staff. There's been a lot of change behind the scenes with sponsorships and things like that. So I think York as a whole is in such a good spot. I mean, the city's here for the taking as a rugby league town and a rugby league city, and the fans always get behind us as well. So look, as a club, we feel that as well. So we're just really looking forward to just getting on that field and just showing what we're going to be about next year.
In terms of the international game, one of the criticisms is always you don't know what your next fixture is going to be, so it's hard to commit to being Irish or Welsh over a long term. Looks as though a European Championship is going to be announced for the end of next season. Are you committed again to playing for your respective nations?
Yeah, definitely. I think that was something that Jed, our Ireland coach, was pushing as well. He wanted to make sure that if you put your hand up, you're in for Ireland. You want to play for Ireland, and for me, that's true. I want to play for Ireland. I love my Irish history. I love my Irish heritage. I love it all. So for me, like, I want to play for Ireland. I look at the piece, don't I, with my name, Brendan O'Hagan. There's not much until you hear me speak. Then you're like, oh, that's a bit strange. But no, yeah, my Irish history, I absolutely love it. And I love my heritage.
If you grew a beard.
I know. Well,
just like Ronan when he came out of the dressing room.
If I could grow a beard, I would. Look, in terms of the European stuff, I'm really looking forward to it. I think there does need to be more international games. I think that's how we grow the game, and it is quite hard to grow the game in different spots over here because there are other sports. Obviously in Australia it's quite big, but we just need to keep persistent with it, and eventually we'll get the game. If you go to a game of rugby league, you're not going to come back because everyone just goes and goes, oh my God, like what is this? So it's kind of, once they go and once we get people through the doors, they won't turn around.
How are you going to cope with Hendo's pre-match team talk? It does start about an hour and a half before kick-off, I think. Wednesday, sorry.
I haven't heard that yet, but I'm sure if he talks, the boys will let him know about it. We've got quite a funny bunch at York, and we're all quite close-knit group, so it'll be funny. I mean, he'll bring in his own attributes, and if that's one of them, so be it. If he likes to talk, he will, and I'm sure the things that he's talking about isn't anything we don't need to hear. So yeah, I'm sure he'll be all right.
What was it like playing for John? Because, up against it on paper before the tournament starts, we know John's got that reputation over here. It's been that sort of a bit of a throwback in the sense of being able to motivate people. Was it like that?
Yeah, that's what I was actually going to say. Like, he's such a good motivator. He just knows how to get the boys going. We would have a lot of, like I said, with the cultural things, we had a lot of emphasis on that, and he would bring about talking on family and just looking at the chest. You see the badge, and everyone wants to play for that dragon. But yeah, John's a great coach. He's really respectful of the boys. He understands what needs to be done on and off the field. He's always able to pull into a chat and just ask me to work on. He just knows. He's very old school, but he's good. He brings to the table what we need. I liked him. I've done really well with him. I'm looking forward and hopefully potentially working with him in the future for Wales if ever selected again. But he's a great coach. He's got a lot of future. He's been around here for a long, long time. He knows his stuff, and yeah, I think he's a great coach for Wales, and I think he'll do well for Widnes because he just taken over them. It'll be interesting to see what he can bring, and yeah, just his motivation's unreal. Even Shed's pre-game, half-time, full-time, he always had to get you ready for the next game, and everyone respects him, but he's been around for a long time, and I like him. He's good.
You're under pressure here because in York, the women, they've finished top of their division last year. You got the League Leaders Shield. Is there any internal competition between yourselves?
No, we're one big community here at York. Everyone goes off everyone. It's a good thing they've done well. They've held their own. They were league leaders. Unfortunately, they didn't get it done in the grand final, but the fact that they got there is a great achievement for the club. They should really, really be proud of them. We can look it up to them, take them as advice, and just try and get the best foot forward and just come as good as we can with them. We got the Valkyries and the men's now and the Knights. I think it'll be really good going forward, and hopefully we can do equally as good. And with each other, hopefully they have a great season. Hopefully we have a good season, and we can all be one championship club fighting for that title.
You've obviously just been playing the World Cup. Have you watched any of it since? Have you been keeping up, or just had a break from Rugby League completely?
A little bit. I was out in London with the family for the last couple of days, so that was good just to escape footy. But we got up here for the last couple of games. It's been good. Keeping an eye on the men's games. It's hard to turn off TV with footy, especially for World Cup. You just can't get away from it, which is unreal. And it's been great these last World Cup. It's been really, really good. It's really exciting to watch. Just the fact that, for example, the men's, the New Zealand team, the fact that they're in the same city as you right now, it's good. Just you leave 10 minutes at your house, you watch a World Cup game. It's really good, but it is good to get a break, like Brendan said, just escape, just so you're not always in deep with footy, but you just have that love for it that you can't get away from it. You try to go, I'm not going to train, not going to do anything like that, and then 2 days later, you just, let's get back out there. Like, everyone's asking, you keen to go back home? I was like, yeah, I'm keen to go back, have a break, but I just want to get playing again for this club because it's such a great sport. We all love it, especially the club.
You both could have snuck into the wheelchair squads because Wales, they're in the semi-finals. Ireland win the group. You ever fancy playing that?
Yeah, I reckon they hit harder than us with some of the shots they do. Yeah. It's intense, hey.
I've had a little go at the wheelchair stuff, and it's so hard. I cannot believe it. Honestly, like I really like how they're doing it now. Like when it's on telly, a lot of people I'm speaking to are like, "Oh, have you seen the wheelchair rugby league?" Hey, they are hitting harder than most of the blokes out there. Honestly, have you seen some of them falling around on their wheelchairs? It's absolutely amazing what they're doing, and it's a massive credit to them, and it's a good credit. Like, it's a credit to the game as well that they're getting to shine as well, and they love the game just as much as we do. And it's so good that they get an opportunity to play in a World Cup and represent their country as well. So it's great what they're doing.
What are you looking forward to in today's games? Because we've got France Cook on. I mean, by the time people listen to this, it'll be over. So you've got to get these predictions right. France Cook on. It's Australia, New Zealand. Two interesting games because they're matched even. Well, not even.
Yeah.
Well matched on both games.
Look, I know I was here the other night when the Gillaroos played against France, and obviously the Gillaroos are a class ahead, but I think the French girls they weren't taking a backward step. They were absolutely giving it their all, and I think they're going to show that again today. And I think they'll have a few learning curves in that Australia game, and I think they'll come out firing today. So I think the French might get over the Cook Islands today, and then as I said, the Gillaroos are just a class ahead. I mean, the game over there in the last 5 years has just absolutely gone off. And it's a credit to them. They've worked really hard, and people behind closed doors, I'm guessing, have worked really hard. They've got some really good coaches over in the NRLW, and I just think that the Gillaroos I think they're a little bit too strong. I mean, they're going to go toe to toe, but I think the Gillaroos will get the upper hand in the end.
Yeah, I agree with everything that Brendan said. I think the Cook Islands, I think all teams have been unreal. Cook Islands, they were fighting down to that last minute. Even France, they didn't just take a step back. But I'm going to have to go with France tonight, I think. I'm going to have to go with the home team. The women's, both New Zealand team and the women's Australian team are unreal. But I just got to go with the home nation, Australia.
I thought you were Welshman, Nick. What's
he cracked. Slips up.
Dual citizen. I've got both passports.
I threw my Aussie on out.
Well, I've not qualified in the T20 World Cup.
No, this is a Rugby League podcast. It's
England in the final.
Wrong ball.
They're in the soccer one, though. That's the problem. The Socceroos are there.
They're the Welsh boys as well.
England.
It's the Irish one. That's the first time I've ever seen you quiet.
I to jump in there. So, anything else, gentlemen, for these two stalwarts of York and the World Cup? No, can I? What's going to be your abiding memory of this tournament then, that you were involved in? What were you in future years? You'll be sitting there going, "I was there when this happened," but in an Australian, Welsh Irish accent.
Yeah, just the fact that you get to play your dream. You grow up seeing these blokes on TV and you go, I'd love to be in their position, but then you're playing up against them. And Brendan, we always watch TV, that's with the Harkers and stuff like that. And Brendan actually got to face the Harker, which is an unbelievable experience. Even us with the Cook Islands and the Tongan one, that was unbelievable. Just when you're out there, you watch it, they're representing their heritage and culture, and you get to stand there and watch it, it's unreal. But just the fact that you get to put on a jersey will be an unreal experience and look back on and say in the future, hey kids, I want to play in the World Cup, and they'll probably say, oh no, don't, full of rubbish there, but you'd be able to pull it out and then say, I've done it. And like Brendan said, you don't know what your last game's going to be. It could be your first and only World Cup, but hopefully not, and you go through more memories and I can just keep making it. Because the boys are unreal. It's the best 4 weeks of your life. The fact that you're around boys, your mates, and then as cliche as it sounds, cringe as it sounds, you form a brotherhood. They can't be all your mates turn to brotherhood, and it's just unreal. You just will never forget it. Just the things that goes on in camp, the laughs, the culture, it's unreal.
Yeah, it's very similar to Bailey. I mean, obviously the first game, and as I said, singing that national anthem was honestly quite emotional. I think about it, and I didn't think it'd be that emotional, and it was. It was it was just crazy. Like I look back now and I watched it back on the BBC, and I actually flicked to my mum, dad, and sister in the crowd, and you can see my mum holding the Irish flag, getting right into it. Just little things like that. You just that'll stick with me forever. Singing the national anthem, obviously facing the Haka was another crazy experience, which you've always dreamed of. And then as Bailey said, just the blokes that I've met, I want to keep in touch with them because they're all just such good blokes, and they're all different in their own ways, and they're all just such good blokes. Like we've had such a good time together. I think we all just want to hold on to it, and we all want to hold on to that friendship that we've all got. And I think that's one of the special things that I'll take out of it is just the people that I've met and the people that hopefully in the next 3 years I'm going to be able to throw that Irish jersey back on. and I'm going to go to war with him again, and that's what excites me. And you can say, and I can see why a lot of people will hold on, like Ben Jones Bishop holds on until he wants to play in a World Cup. But I love that about Bish, and he's so passionate about the Jamaica culture, because that's what he absolutely loves it. And I've spoken to him about it. He's like, yeah, I just want to play for Jamaica. I want to keep playing. And I'm pretty sure he's going to go again. And I'd love to see him go another couple of years, because he's definitely got the legs for it. I mean, it was good. It was cool to play against him as well. I mean, we obviously played together at York, and it was good to watch him play, and obviously score their first try for Jamaica. That touched me a little bit as well, and I was absolutely stoked for him when he did that. So just the little things that come out of camp is phenomenal.
I think the other thing that comes over is there are people that are prepared to criticise this notion of a heritage player. From listening to the two of you this afternoon, there isn't such a thing as a heritage player. You're playing for these teams because you are linked to these teams. We shouldn't make this distinction anymore.
No, definitely not. I mean, that was another thing that we touched on. GK, we kept referring to the Australian boys that had come over, saying the Australian-based players. But George King was like, don't call them that, because we're all Irish in this camp. We're all Irish. And it just shows how much it does mean to players about playing for their heritage. And I can tell you right now that it absolutely means the world for me that I have got to play for both my grandfathers. Like, it absolutely means the world to me. Even when I look at my jersey, I get emotional, and it does mean the world to me. I absolutely love Ireland. I love going over to Ireland. I love my Irish family. I'm lucky enough to have my dad's aunties still here in Leeds that I keep in contact with, and it was a special thing for them as well to see me play for Ireland, and it just means it's not only what it means for me, it means for my family as well, and it's just so special. It is so special.
And I forgot what I was going to say now, which is good, because this is
because we've been told to finish at 4:30.
Oh, well, wonderful.
And then come back.
Well, I can edit this bit off until I remember what I was going to say, but I can't remember, so it doesn't matter. Well, we'll just end there. I'm trying for the life of me to remember what I was going to say.
Well, while you're thinking about it, can I just say, Brendan mentioned the hacker, and it's been so fantastic to see them all again in this tournament. The head-to-head between Tonga and Samoa,
that was unreal. That was
spine-tingling, wasn't it? I think they should be campaigning for a 4020 sort of, put together
Overrun hacker.
101 great hackers.
Cultural.
Let's get your votes in, send your videos in.
I'd have to be done.
Honestly, though, how good was seeing them two do the haka against each other? That is spine-tingling, that, and now that I've faced haka as well, you just feel like, wow. You can't imagine what those boys are feeling doing that. I mean, far out. That is unreal to watch.
If that doesn't pump you up, I don't know what will. Like, if you don't watch rugby league, you see that for the first time. If that doesn't get you in the rugby league, good luck. I don't know what else will.
Can you tell the senior brothers apart? That's what I was going to ask you.
The senior brother. It actually took me quite a while. I think close up I could. Definitely close up I could, because one's got this tiny little birthmark on the side of his eye. So I'm like creeping up like behind him.
That's great when you're asking for a pass, isn't it?
I'm going to look around like the side of their head like, oh yeah, that's Louis.
Do you know which one it is?
No, not on the spot. It's been a week and a half now since I've been in camp. But no, that's how I was telling them apart. It's a little. But then again, you got a 50-50 chance, so you just got to go in with confidence, hey, Innes? No, mate, it's Lewis.
Gentlemen, thank you. Thanks for your memories of the World Cup. Enjoy your post-season and your pre-season. Enjoy 2023 with York.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, boys. Appreciate your time, boys. Appreciate it.
So this is the roughly edited second part of the podcast. I'll just put the mic on the table because it didn't work last time. First question's easy. Who are you? What are you doing here?
See,
I'll let you go first.
that relaxes you.
Yeah, it does a little bit, yeah. So I'm Alisha, I play for York Valkyries, so I've come here to support the girls play. I'm Gracefield, I play for Valkyrie as well, and I've just come to keep Alisha company.
We were expecting you, so I'm not going to ask you any questions. Oh, we will.
That's fine, I'm here to keep her company.
Scott, so where's your medal, Scott? Put it away.
Yeah, show it.
Yeah,
Again.
this
Get it out.
This is like bullseye now. This is like, not here's what you could have won. But this,
Oh wow! Oh, that's
So we
amazing,
have
that,
a World
isn't
Cup
it?
winner with us.
Yeah. Nice.
To
Well,
inspire
will we
us
have
all.
another World Cup winner by the end of next week? Alisha, why Rugby League? How have you ended up at this exciting stadium playing for the York Valkyries?
So I actually started when I was younger. I followed in my godmum's footsteps. So she used to play. And then I was like, oh, I really want to do rugby. So I started at school, but my school didn't have a team. Like, there was just no girls turning up. So I was quite lucky, so I was able to go play at a different school. And then I went down to New Age with All Blacks. And then I was one of the only girls that went up into open age and just stuck it out ever since. So yeah, and then just came to York.
And it's gone quite well at York, hasn't it?
Yeah, really well. I think as one who's like been here from the beginning and seeing it grow, it's been amazing. Yeah, for how far we've come.
Is he not one of those people from Castleford?
Well, this raises the first question, that when a whole load of new players come in, how do you view that? Is that we're going to get our noses pushed out and we've done all the hard work, or here are some players that we can relate to, that play at a level that we want to aspire to, so we'll try and match them?
No, I think it was amazing for them to come in because it's what York needed to be better. We just needed the players, extra players who kind of was more advanced than what we had at York. So them girls came in. Obviously, some girls did disappear, but I think they just obviously didn't like the change. They didn't want to commit. But the girls who have stayed and committed, the nose haven't been pushed out, and everyone's just improved each week. So yeah, no, it's been really good and I've enjoyed it.
In terms of aspirations, I mean, clearly each year is getting slightly better. You had the joy of picking up the League Leaders Shield,
Yeah.
the heartbreak of losing a grand final.
Yeah.
How are you sitting for next year with the rebrand and everything?
Yeah, I think the rebrand's really good. I like the fact that it's like two teams but one club, and it definitely shows the two difference in the teams as well, instead of just being that one team, because sometimes you find supporters just talk about the men's team and not about the women's. So no, it's really good. So yeah, we just got to go that one better, but all the girls are up for it.
So we're here celebrating the Women's World Cup. There've been some great games already at York, got semi-finals to look forward to.
Yeah.
Genuinely, can England win it is the first question. You are allowed to answer. In fact, you might be in a good position to answer that.
Yeah, I think we are in a position to win it this year. I think for us, the year off, well, the postponement from COVID has done us a real service in that it's given us extra year to gel as a team, being able to bring in more players, players who might not have played last year for the World Cup have been allowed an opportunity now to play in a World Cup, such as Danny Anderson, fantastic prop forward. This time last year she'd have been just recovering from ACL surgery, but now she's tearing up her World Cup. So yeah, I think we're very confident, quietly confident within our camp, and I think there's a lot of expectation on us, but we're quite happy to rise to that expectation and hopefully meet it.
Can you give them some advice on what it takes to win a World Cup?
Yes, please.
Because you've actually got...
Give it your all.
Yeah, give it your all. Make sure you go out on pitch and leave nothing behind.
I think
Better than your opposite number.
Yeah, I think we've got a group of girls that are confident and 100% willing to give it their all, so shouldn't be a problem if that's the case.
What's the experience been like so far these last couple of weeks since I spoke to you the other week at the
Yeah,
uni?
yeah, it's been fantastic. Every step of the way has been quite magical. I know that they say that playing in the World Cup is special, but it's special not just for the on-field reasons, but the off-field you get to really sort of like cement yourself into good friendships across different clubs. So like, for example, people who you haven't really spoken to before, you get to make new friendships, but equally you get to strengthen pre-existing friendships, and it all helps that we're a very cohesive group and we all get on really well. There's no sort of like pettiness, no bitchiness, which is quite rare for a group of female players.
I don't think you need to put female in there. Just rugby players.
So the obvious next question then is it a room share type thing? And if
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
No, there's no
who
pictures.
are you rooming? No, who are you rooming with, and what about Alex?
So I'm rooming with Sarah Stanley, so I know quite well because obviously we played together at the club, but it's my first time rooming with her. She's a reasonably good roommate.
That's a glowing end off.
No, she's a good egg. Yeah, she's not in the room much, so she's a perfect roommate.
How much have you enjoyed watching the competition and thinking it's only 3 years to the next one?
I've really enjoyed it.
I
think I've been at every women's game that's been at the stadium so far, and then went to watch the England women last night, which was really good, and obviously just watching them on TV as well, but no, really enjoyed it, it's good.
And we're big fans of Brazil and what they brought to the tournament. We like Canada as well. We like all these stories surrounding the nations that are adding colour to it. What's it like playing against them? Because you knew you were going to win anyway, but their enthusiasm, does that rub off on you?
I think it was important for us as a team when we were going into it not to underestimate what they're all well versed in rugby, whether it be sevens or rugby union. They all had some experience, so it was important for us to not go in thinking that we're going to absolutely pump them. But yeah, you know what? They're some of the nicest girls. They're just so sort of like enthusiastic about the sport, and it's great to see that in countries that aren't necessarily rugby league countries, they're so passionate and enthusiastic about the game. The Brazil girls stood at last night with all the tops in hand being like, can we swap shirts? We want to take the England shirt home. And I'm like, absolutely, how often are you going to get hold of a Brazilian rugby league shirt? Like,
is that on eBay?
No, I'm gonna keep it, give it to, I don't know. I give it to my kids or something if I happen. No, but it's fantastic to see. Like, we've seen all the videos on social media at the end of a match, like they come up against us off New Guinea, there's been a big score put against them, and they're dancing at the end of the pitch and celebrating, and it's just wonderful to see that not only have they've embraced the game of rugby league so well, but the people of England have embraced them as a team, and I think it's just fantastic, and it's great for the expansion of the game.
I asked Kieran Bennett this yesterday, and we'll get on to the second part of what I asked her in a moment. After games, it's the same here at York as it was with England, but kids just wanting photos, wanting autographs. Are you ever going to get used to that?
No, I don't think so. I coach a group of girls, and like even when they're down, like they were like, "Oh my God, can't believe we met so and so from like New Zealand and all the teams like that," and like obviously Australia being down to the Heworth, and the girls met them and they were buzzing, and I think it's like for them to see it, it's like where they want to be next, and that's all they ever talk about when it comes down to training, like, well, I want to be like so and so, and it's like work to it and then you can get there. But no, yeah, I think it's great for the younger generation to see.
Did anyone ask for your socks after the game?
I was walking around the pitch barefoot last night. I think there were a group.
What's going on?
I'm not sure why anyone would want a pair of match-worn socks, because they're not exactly
before they've
glamorous.
been cleaned.
Yeah, before they've been cleaned. So, like, some kids will ask you for your shorts, and you're like, I'm not sure.
No, I mean, I know Sam Burgess did that on the telly, but
yeah.
you know, there's a bit of a difference.
Yeah.
Scott, what did you give away?
Not right, lots of roads for you.
You don't want to see me walking around in my little match and not much else.
Yeah, we only got the
That's
one
gone
kit.
on Instagram.
We didn't get the opportunity to give away, so we only got the one kit.
What are you going to do with it? I mean, are you going to frame it or?
Definitely going to frame it. Favourite women medal, probably a pass. Put up on wall for.
Sean Briscoe knows a good framing man.
Is it?
Yeah.
Get in touch with him again.
Then if you go and win the World Cup again next time, you can just have a wall
I
full
could
of
give them
shirts.
shirts away then.
How has it been having the women's tournament at the same time as the PDRL, the men's and the wheelchair? Again, is that an experience that you think moves everything forward?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been fantastic. It's been real good for us because we get to know sort of like people that, for example, we probably wouldn't have really crossed paths with the wheelchair team or the PDRL team, but and the men wouldn't necessarily have crossed paths with us. But we're all sort of like, we're all now aware of each other and we're knowing each other, and it's nice. It's sort of like, it feels like a bigger community rather than sort of like the men being at the top and everyone else kind of just falling under them. It feels very much
It's a bigger family.
Yeah, we're all sort of like somewhat on par, which is really nice.
If you, I know there's big games still to come, but if you had to stop it now and look back over the three, or anything around the tournament, you pick one moment out that you're always going to remember. What might that be?
I think. Yeah, so I suffered an injury at the back end of the season for York, and a bit touch and go. First touch of the ball in the World Cup, and went over for my first ever England try, so I think that definitely for me has been the highlight of my tournament so far. Got a little bit excited, gave it the old Alan Shearer. Not sure what came over me.
You sort of do, haven't you? 'Cause you
I know.
might-
To an empty stand as well, which was even
better.
more impressive. So yeah, I just I mean it was unreal. Vicky Moll, what a player, brought the line, and I just kept on her shoulder, gave her a little nudge of encouragement that
And now you're immortalised in print
I know,
as well.
I'm now immortalised in the Forty20 magazine.
I mean, it's a bit disappointing, isn't it, that there's no falling out.
There you
of
go,
course,
Yeah,
straight to it.
We need scandal as well. I mean, you know,
England's met Great Britain and always falling out because Wigan players hated Leeds players and whatever.
there's got to be scandal from the PDRL tour. You've got to be able to give us one tale
Yeah, come on, dish the dirt.
behind the scenes.
Oh God, it's a funny start. best I say nothing.
If the PDRL plays now media trained, we've got no hope then. We're not going to get answers from anyone anymore. It's no good. I can ask you both, and it's strange. When I was stood out there watching the teams ahead of the first match, we spoke before about the hacker, facing down the hacker. When the other team's anthem's going on, what are you thinking? Because you just have to stand there and do nothing for a minute.
Just wait for your anthem, sing it loud and proud, and then it's time to go and do your country proud.
It's not too much time to think before a game. Are you not one who gets nervous? Or?
I don't really get too nervous, to be honest with you. I just usually sit myself down and just go into my own little bubble, just give myself to myself, get focused, and then just go out and do my job.
What about as captain though? Because you've got to make sure that not only you're doing your job, everybody else is doing theirs.
Yeah.
So are there stirring words, or are you a lead by example?
Lead by example, definitely. So from the first game we played Australia, I did the first tackle and it kind of set a statement. And then when we played Kiwis the first time, I took the first carry and it goes on the front bum and scored off the back of it. So I try and do things from the front and lead by example more than words. Not much of a spokesperson, to be honest with you. Short and sweet usually.
And what about at York? Who does the Churchillian speeches before you go out?
Obviously Sinead and Katie as the co-captains. Obviously they voice them. I think everybody really, everyone has a voice, don't they? And everybody's listened to. And it's kind of your own role, so it's like you're not having to be told what you need to do. But people definitely have their own ways of how they prep and what they need, or if they need that talking to from like a coach or whichever. I know like when we played Papua New Guinea, it was one of my first game back since injury, and I said to my coach, I was like, talk to me, what do I need to do? But that's just kind of me and how I go about it. So yeah.
Kelsey Gentle said on the telly, because I made a note of this, when the French players were deep breathing behind the goal after they conceded a try, that you don't get a chance to do that at York because Sinead Beats just shouting at you. You said on the telly, so I can't get in trouble.
Sinead gets into us, but she's always constructive, and she gets to us before getting grilling from Cal or Daryl. So it's usually she's good at what she does, isn't Sinead?
But she means it all from the heart.
Yeah,
I think some people, if they hear her, they're like, oh my God, but she just says it from a good place because she wants the club and she wants the team to go well. So yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those where she says things, she's really passionate, and for someone to listen into her, they might take the wrong end of the stick, but we all know Sinead now, and we know that everything she says comes from a good place, and we all have massive respect for her, and she's one of the few people I think that everyone listens to.
We've just seen the French play.
Yeah.
Presumably you've had more interest in them this year because was it 4 of their players came over, 2 played in the grand final. How does that work? Because again, this cross-cultural idea and different perspective, and them going back and then feeding into their competition. Did you enjoy having them over here?
Yeah, we were injured for most of it.
Yeah, unfortunately, we was injured.
When you watched them in training?
Yeah, just having them down, like, they were really good. Like, obviously, some of us went over and did some training with them over there as well, and it was really nice. And then for them to come back over to us and train with us at our facilities and also get a game, it was good, and it was also good to see them play. So So yeah,
I think there was a lot to be learned from both sides in terms of they learned a lot from us, but we also took a lot from what they were doing, how their passion and how they like to play with a little bit more flair than traditionally what your Valkyrie teams possibly known for. And it was quite nice that we could introduce aspects of like their strengths, like Layla Basali. She's got a really good second phase game and promoting second phase rugby. So for us to be able to play on the back of that, it introduced a little bit more sort of like excitement from the York.
The friendship just walked in.
Oh yeah.
Before we get back to England and the World Cup, the new badge, new logo, new name. It looks quite smart. You're happy with it?
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, it's really nice, and I can't wait to see the shirt on Saturday. So yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely the club's moving forward. I think at the moment we're setting the precedent now for other teams in that we're not just there to sort of like
Play a Sunday game and go away from it. We're here to fight and
the men's, we're now counterparts to the men's team. We're not just an addition to the club to tick a box. We are here to make a statement and we're here to be noticed.
What about payment? We've known that obviously those who are playing in the World Cup are getting some match payments, which is brilliant. Leeds have announced that they're now going to reward the women. Is that the next phase for the women's game to see it grow?
I think everyone involved in the women's game says the same thing, in that the only way that the game can get better now is people we need to be financially invested in. I think you'll probably agree. Yeah. I mean, we're expected to, a lot of the girls, full-time jobs, parents, they've got like businesses and whatnot, and then they're expected to come and train like a semi-professional athlete without any financial incentive. And for a lot of girls, it becomes a choice of, do I want a family, do I want a career, or do I want to play rugby? Whereas if we get the same opportunities as the men who are paid to play, or given some sort of financial incentive, for us, it then means that we can balance all of the above. And it makes it easy. We don't have to think, actually, I can't go training tonight, so I need to pick up a bit of extra money to be able to pay the rent or whatever, which, yeah.
And the NRLW is expanding, and we know where they are at the moment. We'll see it in a minute. If somebody came in and said, 2-year contract playing for Gold Coast Titans, Newcastle Knights, would you go?
Honestly, I don't think I would, because I'm just York through and through. I think when you've been at York from like the very beginning and seeing how far it goes, my heart is with York, and I'm just with
Even
York.
for a bucket load of cash?
I just don't think honestly, I'm just York through and
Get the Opera
through.
House, the Minster's, everything. Isn't
It's
it?
a long way away though. Australia's got spiders. We were talking about snakes before we started this second part of the pod. We don't know where they come from.
PDRL, does money have to come into that game at some point? Not necessarily rewarding the players, but better financing?
It does need better financing to keep it growing. At the moment, a lot of it's self-funded, so we have to, like you have to travel yourself and pay for it yourself. So for us, we have to go to Warrington, Wigan. I think Lee is setting up a team, so we've got to travel all the way by itself pretty much. A lot of it's self-funded, like I say. Having some more sponsors in to take that burden off the players, help it grow and attract more people. Because it can be quite difficult, especially with the cost of living crisis going on, and it's not ideal, it's not great. So having that burden taken off you would be beneficial all around, I think.
Yeah, you must be hoping that with the profile raised, not just with winning the World Cup, but with it being on the BBC online and whatever, that more sponsors, more money can come into to ease that.
Yeah, definitely. That's all it needs. It just needs more people taking interest, and it'll just keep going off the back of it. It just needs that one initial investment to make it take off, I guess, and then people will see the potential.
We're running out of time because they're going to come out and do their stuff. So.
Who's going to win, by the way, and who would you want to play in the semi-final?
Are you glad you've got an extra day off as well?
Yeah, grateful for the extra day off. I don't know, I think the dream would be to play Australia in the final at Old Trafford, but equally you've got to take on the best in the world to get to the final, so probably I think the dream would be Australia in the final, but like I say, take on the best, play the best. So
Craig's talking so confidently about what he thinks you can all do. I mean, is that rubbing off on you collectively?
Yeah, I think we're, like I said earlier, we're quietly confident in ourselves. I think we've performed better than we expected. The systems are sort of clicking now, so I think it's just like I say, we're pretty much just fine-tuning now, and if we can front up and muscle up to players like the Kiwis or the Gillaroos, we're more than a position to be world champions, I think.
Was that the big benefit to come out of last night? For the first 15-20 minutes, the biggest physical test you've had?
Yeah.
But for the next 60, you absolutely dominated and clearly were fitter than BNG.
Yeah, I think Craig said when he first took over, he said, I'm not looking for a big, slow, mobile that'll run over the top of people. I want agile forwards, I want forwards that are going to get me a quick play of the ball, because that was his vision to winning the World Cup, and I think it's a vision that's steering us towards that.
That's an interesting answer for a lot of people.
It is.
Learn from that.
Yeah.
So before we end things, if Craig's a big cuddly teddy bear, what's Lindsay Anfield like?
No, Lindsay's lovely. She has the. She
has a heart of gold.
She does.
She has any time for the players at all.
She's great. She's a great woman. She's very determined to get what she wants, and I think most people that have come across her in her rugby career know that. But she has the interest of the girls at her heart, and she's a great person. She's the kind of woman that'll drive Women's Rugby League forward.
And because I've got a massive ego, what do you want me to tweet next year for you all to laugh at in your group chat?
Oh God, I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, do you want me to say York won't win again?
I mean,
that's the motivation you need.
Put a lot of fire in the bellies.
It's ridiculous. See, I should have written you off. I didn't need to write you off, Scott, because you're good, but you know, oh no, I'm digging a hole for me, son. Alisha, Grace, good luck with York next year. Good luck with England, of course. We're all firmly behind you. We'll be here on Monday to enjoy the game. Scott, congratulations again. Thanks for joining us. Doidge, you drove us here, so you had to be on. Phil, magazine's out. We'll be back
in the shops tomorrow.
In Stockport on Tuesday. Please join us, because do we know anything in Stockport?
Well, we do know that Chris Brindley, the chair of Rugby League World Cup 2021, will be on to tell us about how the tournament has gone from their point of view.
We're off to go see the team who will lose to England in the World Cup final, because Australia are about to take on New Zealand. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.